These are the best settings in Marvel Rivals. First, change display mode from borderless window to full screen. Borderless window adds input delay multiplied with every single process in the background of your computer. With full screen, that just fully eliminates that. And then aspect ratio and resolution, keep it native to what your monitor is. For me, that's 16:9 and 1920 by 1080. And then anti-aliasing and super resolution type. For me, since I have an NVIDIA graphics card, NVIDIA DLSS is perfect. It uses AI super sampling to boost FPS and reduce latency. However, if you have an AMD card, AMD FSR is pretty much the equivalent of that. Never use Epic TSR, Intel XeSS. They're just awful. And then for super resolution mode, I put mine to performance. This setting tells NVIDIA DLSS what to focus on, quality versus frames. And in most cases in a multiplayer game where you want as much of an advantage as possible, frames are most important. Applying those, my FPS is already going up. Super resolution sharpening is completely based off preference. I like mine at 80. It allows me to recognize heroes far away, but this setting doesn't affect performance at all, so you can mess around with it however you like. Frame generation, keep off. Right now, frame generation is awful. It increases FPS at the cost of input delay because this setting utilizes AI created frame rate, which will boost FPS, turning this 130 into 300. However, that's not real FPS. Your computer's still running the game at 130. It just smooths out the game, and it's not a setting that's good for single player games like Red Dead Redemption, but never for multiplayer games. So keep this setting off. And then low latency mode. If you have an NVIDIA graphics card, NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency is one of the best settings that NVIDIA keeps improving upon. It dramatically helps with latency issues. Only caveat being is you need an NVIDIA card. But I'm hoping AMD figures out an equivalent, because right now AMD cards can't use this. And then we scroll down to VSync. Turn off VSync. Mine's already off. It creates the most input delay out of any setting known to man. It smooths out mouse input by 2 to 5 frames to eliminate screen tearing. Again, it makes the game look smoother, but in a multiplayer game, that's not something you need or want at all. And now, this is the most important. We're changing all of this. Skip graphics quality, because we need to manually change each setting differently than what the preset sets. So starting with global illumination, keep this setting off. This is just ray tracing. The higher you go, if you go to ultra quality, it does make the lights look better, but losing 100 FPS is not worth it. And then reflection quality, I recommend turning this off. I don't know how many times you're gonna be looking down at the water, different puddles to see yourself, but for FPS, keep this off. And then model detail. With season 1, they introduced performance at a setting, and it's genuinely a game changer. Right now, the medium setting is bugged, so they took it out. Never do ultra. It completely kills your FPS, so keep it on performance. Next, post-processing. Keep it at low. This setting adds extra effects to maps and characters. Costing performance, it's not worth it. Shadow detail, put to low. The higher the setting, the bigger impact on your frames, especially at ultra. It puts a shadow under every single prop and detail on the map. That's not good at all at the cost of performance. Texture detail is confusing in this game because this setting affects both the map and adds shading to the model detail. I recommend high or medium. Low is not good in this game. It blurs out the characters, and when you're engaging in a fight and you're trying to track where they're going, it can get hard to try to fight them at further distances. And then effects detail, put to low. This setting impacts how many visual effects are displayed with heroes and abilities. And in a game like Marvel Rivals where 12 heroes are in a game at once, using abilities all at the same time, low makes sure that those abilities don't hinder performance. And then foliage quality. I don't know how many times you're looking at the grass in this game, but it's not worth the frames. There's still more settings, but let's apply this and see what our frames turn into. Huge jump. Huge jump. And that's for graphics. Next setting is in audio. 3D enhancement is total preference. I personally recommend keeping this on if your headphones have virtual surround sound as a feature, because what happens when you turn this off is it keeps the game in stereo, which is 2 speakers. However, with virtual surround sound, it utilizes directional sound by creating 8 channels of audio. However, this setting does entirely depend on your headphones though. Some headphones, even with this on, don't utilize this feature, so it depends completely on what you have. For me, since I have Astro A50s, 3D enhancement is perfect and helps me in the game a lot. I know where I got shot from just by the sound alone. And then combat mix. I would recommend keeping this at default. Some players like the focus audio mix because it's easier to hear enemy footsteps when they're super close. However, it does limit the range of audio that you hear across the map, which in my experience was not worth it and competitive when you want to know what's happening all the time. And then immersion audio just makes the game sound like you're playing in a movie theater. So unless you want to feel like you're in endgame, keep it off. I would keep it at default. And then last but not least, click on keyboard and under mouse, turn off smoothing. If this isn't already off, off. Mouse smoothing reduces jitter, but it adds a lot of input delay if you keep it on. And then mouse acceleration, turn that off also. Mouse acceleration changes your sensitivity dynamically based on how fast you move your mouse. In Season 0, this used to be a setting that was default on and you couldn't change it unless you went to %appdata% and change the setting within a config. With Season 1 coming out, it has been a blessing that you can just change it within the settings. Should have been a thing already, but that's okay. If this video has helped you at all in any way, a like is appreciated. More Marvel Rivals on the way. See ya!